Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
I'm Vu Gwyn.
And I'm Manny Albin.
No, of course not. That's not Vu Gwyn. Vu is on the road. He's here remotely. He's going to be coming in a few minutes.
And if you're watching on YouTube, we're sitting in some really weird seats. It feels really weird not sitting in my usual seat.
We don't like switching seats like this because we've gotten used to our little spots. But we also have Vu calling in all the way from Germany.
Hello, everyone. You guys hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. So welcome to the Porsche Club Insider. It's episode 59. Of course, 59 is an important number in Porsche numerology because that is the Brumos number that everyone who's an enthusiast should know. We're excited to have Vu on. He's got a ton of stuff, videos. If you've been following our Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, you've seen the videos from Germany. You definitely want to like, comment, or subscribe to the podcast as well as to any of our different social media. Like we said, the Instagram page is really rocking. YouTube, same way. And if you want to comment on the podcast, go to the YouTube version of the podcast because that's the only place that you can really comment. And we do get a lot of comments. I think the latest one's up to like 30 comments.
Yeah, something like that. We got a good following now. It's not just Gurney Eagle 500 anymore.
Although him and Ian are regulars.
Yes.
And commenting everything we do. So big news. Well, let's first start off with what we did last week. Damon was busy. Go ahead.
Let me just pause you for a second because I really want to share with you where I'm at. I'm just outside Stuttgart, and I'm in Asperg. I'm actually at the Porsche Classic Center, and it's pretty amazing. And I know, Manny, you put together an agenda, a run of show for today's podcast, but I brought a little surprise for you. Let me see.
Oh my God, look at this. The man himself, Boris.
Hello.
Man, good thing I didn't say anything. Hey, nice to see you too.
Let me get my list of questions we have for a Porsche exclusive, just in case we ever got Boris on.
and I can tell you, I will answer all the questions, no matter if it's exclusive, Manufaktur, or classic, as we are with classic today. And with the podcast I listened to when you had Christoph with you, I really listened carefully and knew that you have a long list of questions. So I'm all yours. Ask your question.
Christoph could be a spy, very good spy, because he would not release any information. He just smiled a lot.
I didn't warn him. That's the problem. I didn't warn him about your craziness, and I didn't warn him to be as funny as possible because he thought, this is a very serious technical podcast about details and everything has to be very precise. I don't say it isn't, but I didn't tell him the fun part of it. That was my fault. I'm very sorry for that.
So we would be remiss if we didn't properly introduce Boris. Boris is the Director of Exclusive Manufactured Vehicles in this position for over a decade now, I believe.
I fear so, yes. And with Porsche already in my 20th year. I cannot believe it myself, but it's true.
And you're you're the person that we look to in terms of the expert in individualization. But there's a quote on one of your profiles I think is absolutely true, and it's, you are a car enthusiast that brings customers' dreams on the road.
That's what we try, and normally I always say, it is all a team effort. It's not myself, it's the team. But actually, this is true. What we do, or what I'm allowed to do, is like making dreams come true also for myself, because I am a car nut. All the cars that we are allowed to do, I would always love to own myself. So all the craziness we have and all these crazy ideas that we bring onto the road are driven, of course, by our customers' dreams and thoughts and requests, but also we have a team of car nuts and they all want to bring their dream cars onto the road. And that's basically the secret behind it. Be the craziest car nut yourself, then you will create good cars for real car enthusiasts.
So if you don't mind, Manny, would you share with the folks listening sort of the background, how long Boris has been involved with PCA and some of the special projects that he's done with us.
I think we first met Boris with, he wasn't with the restoration of the 911T, was it? Would have been the Club Coupe, I think.
He goes all the way back to the original Club Coupe.
Yeah, that's true. And then I didn't talk about that too often. The very first Club Coupe, the 997 in the Azzurro, California, that was my first week when I started with Porsche in 2003. When we talked about this car, that was the first week. I was asked by the head of product management back then, Martin Urschel. He said, we should do something for, Porsche Club of America. They want to do a car. What do you have in your warehouse, parts and ideas that we could put into this car? So that was a true meeting that took place, and I was part of it. I was just new to the organization. And it is my very first step is linked to PCA, actually.
There you go.
Hit the ground running,
I
it
know
sounds
that
like.
Manny and Damon are probably bursting with questions, and y'all better make this as effective as possible.
Well, my question is actually, Boris, what Porsche do you drive right now?
I drive a 964 Carrera 2 Coupe as often as possible. Of course, not in winter times, so not that often at the moment. As you said, it's still quite cold in Germany. As a company car, I drive a Macan GTS, which I really decided to drive because I wanted to experience this car. As it is quite unusual. Most of my colleagues are driving a 911, or if not a 911, they drive a Panamera or a Cayenne. Very rarely a Macan. First true fact, this was the only car that was available with combustion engine without hybrid at that day, and I wanted to experience this car, as it will not be too long that we have cars like this in the offer. And second, I really appreciate the design of the Macan. This car does not seem to have a life cycle because the base concept is some years old, but still the car looks very attractive, very, very modern. It drives very nicely. Its performance is nice. And third most important reason is that for the first time this year, I dive deeper into something else than Porsche, because we are founding a family, so we need more space, and that's why we decided to have a Macan and try it out. And I gave away my lovely 992 Targa 4S that I had before.
So what color? What color does the head of PTS, the king of PTS?
That's exactly
what color is his Macan?
What do you think?
Gray. Silver or gray?
Of course, because before I had anything to do with PTS, my roots lie with the 997 Sport Classic. That was my very first project that I ever did, and I was allowed to do when I had no sense of anything. My boss told me, "You will do it," and I said, "How can you know that I would be okay? I will do it." And Sport Classic Grey was something that from the early second was in my head to realize for this car. I had a little picture of a 356 in fashion gray on a green grass somewhere on a car exhibition, probably Emilia or something. And I loved this subtle kind of gray on the green grass. And it was not shout out loud, but very special. And in these days, this was 2005 or 2004. There were no light gray cars. The trend started way later, after we did Sport Classic Grey. And when we showed Sport Classic Grey to the board, in those days it was Wendelin Wiedeking, he looked at the car and he said he was really not convinced. He was looking at it and said, okay.
I remember you said at some point that he thought it wasn't painted yet.
That's what I want to say. He said, it's a nice car, but when are you going to paint it? Because it's only primer on it. We said, no, it's not primer. It is painted. It is a trend. Believe us, it is a trend that is coming up. And he said, okay, I trust in you. Let's try it out. And after that, nowadays, chalk or crayon, as you would probably call it, have take rates in some model ranges 20-30% in some markets. So it is a big trend, and all other car manufacturers also have light gray tones. So still, I'm very much linked to light gray, and at the moment, the easiest way is to order a car in chalk or crayon.
There you go. So I'm very fortunate that I got to work with you, Manny, as well. We worked together on the 60th anniversary Club Coupe, as well as on the classic Club Coupe. And what I always chuckle when you ask us about, developing these cars is, what we would like, and talking about being able to have a crystal ball of such and know what's coming down the road. We always turn the question back to you. What is it that we should have? Because in your back pocket, there's so much there that we have no idea, and we just know and trust that you will lead us down the right road. And the most recent example is with Sport Gray Metallic with the 996 Classic Club Coupe. You encouraged us to go with that color as opposed to the original Sport Classic color, and then later to find out there was a very specific reason for it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, talking about this, I favor having inspired customers, and I would call you in the first step a customer when we start such a project. Of course, you're a family member as well, but at that time you are a customer approaching us with, you have an idea, you want us to realize a dream, bring it onto the road. And I really prefer people who come with ideas and we then add on what we have in mind. Instead of just starting with, okay, we take out all of our ideas, show it to you, pitch it like you decide A, B, or C. We can also do this, but it's for me more important, especially in the beginning, to listen. And it's the same with you as a club or with a customer, to listen what is the idea behind the request, and see what the inspiration, where it comes from. Does it come from architecture? Does it come from fashion? Does it come from a collection? Do they think of a car that your father owned or whatsoever? So where does it come from? And when I have this base information and know that I'm dealing with a real enthusiast who really wants to bring a dream onto the road, not only spend a lot of money and say, build me something nice, then I add on what we have in mind. And with the Club Coupe, I mean, that was exactly the thing. When we met in the design studio with Grant and we had this 996 there and you saw all the things, I mean, I cannot stop myself when we start to talk about it. But then I like also when it's a teamwork and everything adds up to the next steps. And the color, I mean, the base decision was to paint the 996 Classic Club Coupe in Sport Classic Gray 63A, the original 997 color. That was what we decided when we were there in Weissach back then. And then we started to do these little blue stripes, and we worked with Grant and so on. And someday, of course, we showed you, I mean, you knew something was coming, obviously, because you were asking all the time. We told you, listen, I mean, this will be like in every good movie, like with Star Wars, it always needs 3.
Yes, absolutely.
So we knew that the 997 Sport Classic never made it to the US due to several reasons. Of course, we can talk about that also later on, but always was admired. And we already had plannings in the shelf that we wanted to do a new Sport Classic, the 992. It was upcoming, and of course we wanted to stay close to the concept. And the 996 Classic Club Coupe, when I was first asked, and honestly, really, it was Alex who approached me with, after we had this in and out meeting and had fries and burgers, he said, Boris, what do you think? Can we do it? I mean, it's basically the ducktail story and the Fuchs rims and the Sport Classic. This is something, I mean, you always told me, said Alex, that this is a very important thing and we shouldn't copy exclusive small series. They are mostly one-offs from the topic that we created the car around. I said, can we do it? And I said, yeah, I mean, if we in the end make it a story and link those 3 cars together, then of course, let's do it. And painting the 996 Classic Club Coupe in Sport Gray Metallic, which is the then to be color for the 992, and launch it at a date where nobody knew about the 992. I mean,
It was amazing.
and
Absolutely
then
amazing.
do you remember this little video we made of the Classic Lab Coupe, and I was there when the video and photo shooting was taken. If you look precisely in the side window, and they made it too good, obviously, because nobody recognized it, or only a few people. When the camera goes over the side windows, you see in the glass that the 992 was already there. When they took the photos and the
Easter
filming
eggs.
of the 996.
Easter
Yeah. But it was.
We're gonna have to go back and find that.
I
was a
wonder if
tool,
anyone's.
well-
We need to like search the internet and the forums to see if anyone's
I don't
spotted
think
that
so.
yet.
Yeah.
It was too well covered, obviously.
Yeah.
So I turn it over to you guys. Any questions for Boris from you?
So I guess one of the things maybe we can explain to the listeners. So we've heard Sonderwunsch that came out with the Classic Club Coupe. We saw that with the Carrera GT, that the green one that they commissioned and redid. Is that part of exclusive? Is that something different? Did you work together? Where does Sonderwunsch fit into exclusive?
Yeah, Sonderwunsch is the link between exclusive Manufaktur and Classic. Easily said, with Sonderwunsch 2 years ago, first we decided with our customer advisors that we have in Zuffenhausen, and we live in the Werk 1, as you all know, and we welcome customers there. We treat our customers, no matter if the car is a new car that we individualize during production, or a car that the customers already own, can be a 991 that they want to bring back and we convert it to something new, or if it's a classic car. So it will always be one customer advisor, one co-creation specialist who will be in contact with the customer, of course, involving the dealership and the importer, so it will always be well aligned. But in the end, talking to the expert, it will be always one person. And no matter if you want to talk about classic, exclusive Manufaktur or anything else, they will always cover these projects. And on the back side of the product development and realization, we also teamed up. So we have the workshops aligned now. So we have one workshop for the classic cars and one workshop for the non-classic cars, but we drive them with the same process. And they are in two different locations. So we are now here at the classic workshop in Asberg. The other one is in Zuffenhausen. And the product development teams are also aligned, so same structure, and they are talking with each other. So that means talking about Sonderwunsch, it doesn't matter if it's classic or exclusive anymore. It is Sonderwunsch, and you can start with first room if you want to call Sonderwunsch a house. The first room is what we call the factory commission. So when you have an order for a new car, you are with your dealer and you did your specification on the car configurator. You end up with questions that you have that you don't find in the car configurator. Then your dealer will approach Porsche Cars North America, the vehicle personalization managers, and they will be in contact with us to realize the requests on top of the car configurator. So this will be done inside production before checkpoint 8, and the finished car, of course, goes through the regular process to the dealer and then to the customer. The second room, and this is the first one where you have to own the car already. So you have the car with you and you want to individualize it further. It doesn't matter how old it is. You give it back to the factory and they would do a recommissioning, a factory recommissioning. As you mentioned, Manny, that's the Carrera GT. The customer owned a GT silver one, had an Ascot brown leather inside, but didn't like it too much, so he changed it to a new exterior color, can be any color, like for example this car was oak green metallic, and changed the interior also to a new Bordeaux red interior, and of course the technical substance will be updated but on the series level, so as it was when it was delivered new. Recommissioning, in easy words, is a second delivery years after the car has been delivered. And the third room, again, you own the car already, you give it back to the factory to be individualized, is then also with technical deviation. So this means you can ask, of course, for a new paint, a new interior plus technical deviation. Like in the Classic Club Coupe, where you asked for a ductile spoiler that was not available in the 996, a double dome roof that was not available, a GT engine in a GT3 engine in a regular 996 body, but also we can create your own wheels, a power upgrade, whatever you want, you can ask. Doesn't mean we can realize all of that, but we will always try. And this is why the process behind the Oneoff, I didn't tell the name, the third room is called the Factory Oneoff. There's 1 year that is the evaluation phase. So when you go into the concept phase or the evaluation phase, you pay 100,000 euros approximately. Then you get your designers, your engineers, your project management team, and 1 year we work together with you, involving Weissach, test benches, and everything you need, including Grant Larson as a designer who will design and sketch what you want to do. We'll work with you 1 year. After that year, we know what is feasible, and we offer you the final offer for the car to be built. It will have a certain price then, and you can decide you want to build it. Then it's 2 more years until the car is finished, and after 3 years in total, you have your Oneoff.
There you go.
How many one-off cars do you do a year?
And that's the basic problem we have. We ramped up the program 2 years ago. At the moment, we are working on 3 projects at a time. The demand is much higher. As always, we were quite positive, but not that positive. So as Alex Fabik would tell me now again that, Boris, listen, I mean, Sonderwunsch is kind of a luxury experience. And of course, luxury also contains the fact that there's a queuing line in front of the luxury store. But this queuing line shouldn't be 2 times around the block of the house where the store is in. So we have to reduce the waiting time. Actually, it is also, again, a comparison on a Rolex Daytona, if you will. You wait 8 years before you get one. And that's also the waiting time that we have right now for starting a Oneoff project. And we just went to the board, and with our big support also from Alex and all the team, we made it to get an approval to scale our business and get new capacity on board and really reduce the waiting time. But it will take a while. I mean, we need the right people. That's basically the most important thing. Sonderwunsch is a people's business. I mean, we need really highly skilled people, experts in what they are doing, and you don't find too many of them nowadays. So it will take a time, but we are heavily working on it.
So the facility that we're in right now is fairly confidential. So unfortunately, I can't give you photos of walking around. The facility is much larger than the original classic department that we started.
Just tell them you're going to use the bathroom and bring the laptop with you.
Manny, I want to come back.
Is this the facility that I think we covered in the previous podcast when it was still under construction?
So we've talked about this before, yes, but there's no photos of this area. This is the one that I shared with you, that within the workshop, the walls around all of the technicians are inspired, so to speak, by photos from the Classic Club, which it still is, and I'm happy to say that. But they are building even more space for I guess more cars, more projects. It's getting larger. The spot that we're sitting in right now. Can we talk about this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It is Ulrike's and Tobias' place, so you can. I mean, if you ask me,
so
go ahead.
I hadn't seen this before. This is a customer delivery space, especially for Classic. And then downstairs, there's a beautiful room after your project is ready to go. In fact, there is a vehicle down there today that will be delivered, I believe, tomorrow.
Yes.
And without giving away who it is, that car has ties to PCA in the sense where the owner of that car happens to be the same owner of the 73 911T that we restored. So how cool is that?
So somebody will revive his passion tomorrow.
Yeah. And this car is, I would bet that both of you wouldn't guess what model car it is. And obviously it's not going to be something that's common. And they already have a 73T.
Is it room 1, room 2, or room 3?
Yeah.
This car actually is a factory restoration. We didn't cover that. I mean, besides Sonderwunsch, we still have the regular factory restoration, but that's also something we are working on because it gets more complicated with all the names and structure. So factory restoration means bringing a car back to the very, very original condition. So it is technically the original condition, but also exterior paint and interior is 100% original, while a recommissioning deviates that. So you have a new exterior color, new interior color in a completely new combination, and can have
That's
new
a great
wheels.
hint. That's a great hint because that means the 911T that he received, back, it's a similar car, it sounds like. It's a restoration.
I love the guess because they're usually wrong.
No, but actually also talking about, as you asked, talking about Sonderwunsch and capacities, it's absolutely right what you say. And it's true for here, for the classic workshop, and it's also true for the exclusive Manufaktur workshop, where we deal with all the Sonderwunsch cars. At the moment, we have like all the time 20 sport classics standing there that we individualize to finish the production of them. But really, those capacities have been increased. And talking about projects, I mean, don't make them too jealous, but down here to the right, we have at the moment 4 Carrera GT recommissioning projects on the lifters. And down there, we have one real one-off 993 on the lifter with...
I so wish I could share with you all.
Oh, man.
When you say 993 one-off,
Yeah.
like a speedster one-off?
Who knows? How many speedsters have been built, Manny, in total? How many?
So I always thought there was
was
just 2, one for Butzi
Yes.
Porsche and one for Jerry Seinfeld. But when we were in the shop a few years back, I saw a third one being built. And when I asked questions, I was kind of I was pushed to the side and said, come this way. And no one answered my question as to what this 993 Speedster was. That was still in bare metal, but that always stuck in my head as to... Because I doubt the factory would be making a replica. It would have to be a real speedster.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the story
Blink
behind
once, it won't break.
That's the story behind Sonderwunsch. I mean, you can create fantastic cars anywhere, and it belongs to the universe of Porsche that we have so many also third parties and workshops and specialists who deal with cars, who build cars, who repair cars, and there are quite more 993 Speedsters in the world, and you cannot say that any of these workshops did anything wrong. They did what the customers wanted. But if a customer approaches us and say that he wants a Speedster, if it would be a Speedster, let's see. I mean, the customer...
Theoretically.
The customer, of course, wants to be the first one who tells the story, not me. But if it would be one, then the end result would be that this is an original Porsche AG 993 Speedster. We would put all the documentation to the museum archives, so it will be listed as an original Porsche car. We will also manipulate the whole data file of this car, that it has been converted at that date to this specific condition or specification. And so this is also why design is heavily involved. No one-off project can be done without involving design, mainly Grant Larson, but also Michael Mauer. And this also means that even if we say we bring customers' dreams onto the road, if you would ask, that probably would be your next questions, when do you say no?
Yeah.
We try not to say no too often because it is the customer's car and the customer's dream. But with a one-off car, we have to make sure, as it is a car that will go to the museum as an original Porsche car forever, it has to fit in the Porsche design philosophy. And that's also already, told positively. The customer has the fantastic opportunity to discuss his car with Michael Mauer and Grant Larson and go back and forth. When Michael Mauer would say, I don't like this radius, or I don't like this design, we could improve this or that. I mean, how cool is that?
Absolutely.
If, as a Porsche customer, you sit down with the Porsche design boss and he advises you what you should do in the end. That's how we work there.
Sonderwunsch really fascinates me, because if I had the wealth of an Elon Musk, I would come to Porsche and say, I want a street version of the 963. What do you say then?
You're not.
We're
you're
talking
not the-
Elon Musk money here.
Yeah. I mean, with 963, you are actually the first one who asks me about this, but we had the request of 917s or 956 and race cars like these. And also with Grant, I talk a lot about this. I mean, if you look into the Porsche Unseen book with these design studies, there are really thrilling designs of cars inside. Like there's a Le Mans inspired coupe with wing doors, and I mean there should be a customer who asks this question, and we wouldn't say no. Initially, we have to evaluate it. I mean, the most important thing what you have to know is, as I said, you have to own the car to bring it in to be converted. Why is that the case? Because we need the vehicle identification number, of course, of this car and the base car. If you want to make it street legal, it should be something that we convert and not build from scratch. So a high-end, top-notch race car of 2023 without, of course, street legal components will be very difficult to make it road legal. I mean, in the past, there were crazy people who even made a 917 street legal. So it is never impossible, but it would be probably, if you would ask us today, I would say, it is a rather
there's still a chance. You didn't say no.
So I have a specific request here, actually. So I'm looking back to the Porsche Unseen concepts, and one of my favorites was the Porsche 904 Living Legend. If somebody brought you a Volkswagen XL1 and asked for the 904 Living Legend, would you build it?
It's a very smart question, and I fear I will not answer it.
Okay, moving on.
Well, could we see your answer at Rennsport?
No. I mean, honestly speaking, yes, this would be something where we would sit down together first. I mean, as I said, we would never say no in our first talk. We would invite you. We would ask you the question and listen to you, then take it with us. Basically, if you would ask this now, I would use the phone and call Grant first and ask what he thinks, because, I mean, as I said, the base platform is needed to know what you can create out of it. And if the proportions and all that would be necessary and needed of the XL1 would suit that, then I would say let's invite the customer to a brainstorming workshop. Either physically, you could come to Zuffenhausen and we do that. Maybe we go to the design studio and look into what might be there from the past and how this Living Legends concept car has been built up and what is underneath. And then we would start to evaluate it.
All right, so let's take it down a couple of notches. It's not unheard of that it's tough to get cars these days, but to be able to get exclusive options and paint a sample, can you share the current climate and what insider information you can share with us?
I mean, first of all, I have to apologize to everybody out there who does not get what he wants and should, of course, get, as we are only talking to car enthusiasts here. We know that at the moment we are not delivering as we are expected and as we would wish ourselves. I mean, starting with the cars, of course, we have a lot of very inspiring limited cars where not everybody gets one. Of course, this is part of the concept. I mean, if it would be a car that everybody could own and buy, it wouldn't be a limited series anymore. There's mostly a very good reason behind. Talking about the 992 Sport Classic, maybe, as this is discussed quite often, would there have been the potential to build more or to sell more? To sell more, definitely a yes. Not too many more, but yes, we could have sold more. Could we have built more? No. Because, the fact is, the side panel we chose for this car without the air intake holes, we built a new tooling for that. And the tooling size is actually the size of this whole building area here, so a big apartment that we had to create to make these side panels. And this was limited to 1,500 sets, including spare parts if any Sport Classic is damaged. So this is normally always the reason also behind we think of a good limitation number why we limit cars. Now, talking about options, also we know, talking about the rally design package, for example, for the Dakar, we are not taking anything easy. Looking at this, it's the very first time that we convinced our production department and all the engineers to realize a real two-tone paint job that is done inside the paint line in Zuffenhausen. So the current model year we used to ramp up the business. So we were only able to build like 3 a day, 4 a day, 5 a day, and we are ramping it up now to 7 a day. Demand is probably more like 10 a day, and that's what we are now investigating with the production, purchasing department, develop, finance, everybody we need, how we can increase the volume that we can produce of such a project. And last but not least, I know paint to sample is a big headache for everybody who does not get it. We invested really heavily into it and talking about really a lot of money, new toolings, new machines, new processes, and we were really on a good move. We came from 1,500 cars a year to last year we produced 5,000 cars in 2022.
5,000
PTS cars last year, and demand was even higher. And then we went into a big supply chain crisis. We cannot say it's supply chain and of course the number of skilled people we would need. We have really a lack of painters at our suppliers at the moment as well. So it's a very difficult situation. The supply chain broke down, honestly speaking, some month ago. We are now back on track or in direction of the track. I hope, and this is what we are really heavily working on, and we really spend days and nights to get this done, that from October on, October quotas onwards, we will be able to accept orders, of course, earlier. Like for October, you would, from July on, we could accept the orders. And then from October onwards, we would be able to produce the number of cars on the level like end of last year. But still, I know this is not enough. So demand is still much higher.
So I noticed the last time we were here a couple of months ago, the beautiful dealership that was across from the museum is no longer there.
Yes.
And I believe there's a building that's going up. Is that for paint, and will that improve capacity?
This building that is at the place across the museum is an extension of the body workshop.
Body workshop, okay.
Especially also for the new electric Boxster, and also logistics area. So that is a true fact at Porsche as well. Anytime we build a factory component at the day we move in, it's too small, so we need to build a new one. But on talking about paint shops, we have 2 massive paint shops in Zuffenhausen, one for the 718 and 911 and one for the Taycan. They are close to each other. The one for the Taycan is connected to the assembly of the Taycan with a bridge that is 1 kilometer long, 1,000 meters long. And the other one is connected to the 911 production. And inside this paint shop, we built in our own paint mixing bench. So all the PTS colors are mixed inside the factory. That's what we changed to get quicker and to be able to see the colors that we do, and also improve, very importantly, the quality, the color matching quality. So we mix the colors ourselves. We have new painting cabins that we included into the paint line, just dedicated also for paint to sample, but also the two-tone paint for the Dakar. And of course, we increased the number of paints as well that are all technically developed and approved. So this investment led to what we can do on the factory side. But the problem that we now have and will solve, I hope, within the next 2 months, is more on the assembly parts. So front bumper, rear bumper, door handles, mirrors. You have to imagine with PTS, in the end, as a customer, you don't want to see any difference between a PTS car or a standard color. Besides, you're fascinated about the color, of course. So, but the quality has to be the same.
Yeah.
So in the past, it was like some cars ended up with, I mean, the paint for a PTS car is still one bucket full of paint that is mixed for this car, linked to the production number, connected to a line going up to the paint shop, and then the car is painted. So this is still the process. Everybody who says, I mean, come on, they are only making money with it and selling the colors for a high price. Why do they have a problem with capacity? It is not that case. It is still a production number linked single production of a car. And for this color in the mixing bench, this bucket full of paint is used for the body, and the second one is used for the add-on parts, and it is sent to one supplier that connects 18 sub-suppliers for all the little parts that I mentioned, door handles, air grills, front bumper, rear bumper. So they are painted in the same color, and they are checked to the color board that we created together with the 2 buckets of paint. So in the end, when everything is brought together to the factory and assembled, the car has the same appearance as a series color. While in a series color, just to say this as a last comment, in a series color it's much easier. For example, Guards Red, there's one development for Guards Red. Then there are specifications and samples everywhere, so everybody knows in which tolerance Guards Red has to be, so it all fits together. And this has never been done for painted sample before, because you could not do it, because we have 172 different colors at the moment. So impossible.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, choosing the color is the easiest part of the task. And when you're talking about a standard color on the line that's been tested and you're going to put them on thousands of cars, that's fairly easy and very simple. And you all make it look so simple in the fact that people see the final product and they think, well, everything was done at the same time and all together. And they don't think about the multiple suppliers and getting that same bucket of paint to everyone and getting them to apply it the same. You're testing the paint, this new paint color that you've never used before on materials. You have to make sure that they last, they degrade at the same level, so to speak, with sunlight. And so you're doing all this testing. So at the end, the customer may think, oh, it just came on the line, they sprayed it, and it's all simple. But it's so much more complicated than that.
I mean, as the paint director told me just last week when we toured around his facility, and it is really very inspiring to see how this all works. But I mean, paint is a chemical mystery. In the end, I mean, for all the people, it's just paint, it's just the color. But we have a laboratory with paint experts working every day and checking the colors, and of course, every day something happens. So with these colors, there are experts who check every day if the quality is right, if they have to adapt anything, if they have to tone a color to make it more matching to the others, if they have overspray or things where the color is not durable enough. So this is all checked on a daily basis for every single color that is used.
And let's throw in metallics. I mean, metallics can go wrong in a number of ways. Too much metallic, too large a flake, too small a flake, how you lay it down, which direction you applied it to. I mean, just a multitude of potential problems.
As I said, this chemical mystery, if you think of the curvy body of a 911 and you open the doors, that's the most critical parts with paint to sample. Most critical colors, yellow, orange, red. So this is most critical. And most critical area, if you open the door and you have these door sills and these round edges, there sometimes when you spray it, when the robots spray it in the normal line, then the color does not cover the body enough because the paint is running down over the curve and not holding where it should be. So then they can adapt the recipe and change with it and do some sample tests and whatsoever. And of course it has to stay where it should be and should of course cover the whole parts, so it always looks yellow and not yellow with white spots inside or anything. And then of course if we find out something like this, and this is true especially as I said for these light colors, and some colors have to be additionally sprayed by hand. So it goes over the line, it goes through the robot, and the second time it goes through a manual box and somebody has to spray it by hand. So then, of course, this is not only that the car goes through the process 2 times, but it steals a production plate for another car. So in the end, this means for the daily production lot,
we
are
You're taking 2 cars.
Yeah, we are the ones who are blamed because we lost a car. And this, of course, we also have to take into consideration with producing these paint-to-sample cars day by day, that we have to have a stable process.
And I'm sure all the bean counters remind you that you're taking that extra slot and somehow have to pay for what's been lost with that extra slot.
Yes.
So just to educate our listeners, you have PTS, which is about 130 colors on that.
172.
172
Okay.
over all model ranges, but for Zuffenhausen 911, it's 116 at the moment.
Okay, so and then above and beyond that, this is where you have the the famous. You bring your wife's lipstick in, you say, "This is what I want my car painted in this color," and that's a whole different process, because unlike PTS, where you're picking a color that's already been approved and tested by Porsche, here's a color that can take up to 2 years maybe to see it in final approval, because you have to see if it's something you can actually do and will it look good on the car.
The process is called Paint to Sample Plus, and it means, as you said, the customer hands in a sample. And in the past, this process was quite complicated. And as you mentioned, it took like 2 years or even longer, and it was very intransparent. Nobody knew how long will it take and will it really work out. And we really also heavily invested into this process. We are working on, I would say, like 20 PTS Plus colors at the moment. They were all handed in by customers. The very first one following the new process is just launched. It's Essmann Green. The customer even was able to call the color by his name, because his name is Essmann. He's an electrician from a German city, and he also has a racing team in the sports cup. And his cars, or his delivery cars in his electric company, all are green. So he wanted his 911 to be in the same green. So he handed in this sample, and knowing that he handed in the sample, it is always linked to a commission number of a car. So this means it cannot take more than 1 year, and we are really heavily working on it, that we want to bring it down to 9 months. The normal lead time of paint to sample is 6 months, including when you order it and when you get the car. And with Paint to Sample Plus, it's 9 months. And the process is that the sample is handed in. We talk to our color experts and the technical experts on the paint shop side, but also supplier side, and also paint supplier side. That's also very important. I mean, we are, for example, paint to sample in different factories is a different thing, because one factory is using Axalta paint and the other one is using BASF paint. Completely different story. It's also a matter which robot system is used, which spray gun is used, which process to mix the colors is used. This all means a complete new qualification of the color in this certain factory. So this is done then by the experts. We even built prototype bodies of the cars. We paint them also with add-on parts to make sure the color matching is right. And if we are happy with it, we present it to the factory quality boss in Zuffenhausen, and he approves, yes, this is a PTS Plus that fulfills our request for quality. And then we built the one car for the one who handed in the sample, and after that we convert the color into the PTS range so other customers can have it then in the next model year, and it is added into the palette of paint sample. So that's why you now, for new model year 2024, you can have Essmann Green.
I think I remember seeing an article about that. Google it, Essmann Green, and it'll come up and you can see that color.
Yeah.
If you are...
It's in the newsroom.
Yep, in the newsroom. Cool.
So you talked a little bit about parts earlier, and of course, with the exclusive, tell us about how has it been for, one, how many parts roughly does exclusive offer, but then how has supply, and are you back to normal? And
parts is difficult. I would say options. So if you count together all the options that you find in the car configurator over all model ranges, exclusive Manufaktur offers more than 1,000 options. And if I say options, I mean all the options you find in the car configurator that have a code a price, and a clear product substance. So that is what is visible to anybody, what is worldwide on offer, what you find in the car configurator. The main products of exclusive Manufaktur are starting with the exterior sport design packages, but also wheels, sport tailpipes, lights, so black headlights, dark tail lights or light tail lights. Then, of course, all the interior options in leather, wood, aluminium, carbon fiber. Also electronic components like a rear seat entertainment in the four-door cars. So these are the typical exclusive Manufaktur options. Supply, it is a problem everywhere at the moment, and it's not predictable anymore. It's just last week we ran out of floor mats for the 911 Sport Classic, so the heritage design inspired floor mats. The supplier told us I cannot deliver floor mats anymore, so we had to put regular exclusive Manufaktur floor mats into the cars, write the customers letters and say we deliver the floor mats later. So, and this happens unfortunately day by day at the moment, and it can affect electronic components, it can affect interior components, everything. And this is really where we have to say a big thank you to our purchasing department, because they have really day and night shift working on task forces to always get the parts we need to build the cars. And I really hope that this will improve soon. But of course, having so many crises around the globe at the moment, that's the driver for this problem, that we really have issues with our supply chains. But I mean, as you know it, we are Porsche, and for us it's a challenge and a race, and we want to win the race in the end for you as the customers. So you can believe all the cars we can build, we build.
So driving around, we've noticed some camouflaged electric Macans and some other vehicles. As Porsche moves more into the electrification side, we talk about the next Cayman, the next Macan, Boxsters and such, how does that change your world?
First of all, I mean, looking at me, you might think maybe he's young, but in my head, I'm probably 65. So I like...
I doubt that.
I like my 964 very much, and I like how it smells, how it drives, how it feels, and all that. So first thing is, of course, we need to be open for this new world and to use it and to really get into the world and into this philosophy and lifestyle also. And I'm really convinced, and I was very much surprised when I had the chance to drive with the Taycan Turbo S for the very first time when we did road testing for the Sport Classic 992. We also had Taycans with us, and of course we changed through the cars. And I was fascinated by the speed. I was fascinated by all this top-notch technology, and it feels like Captain Future when you drive this car, when you are normally a guy who is very much used to the old-fashioned stuff. So our challenge, and we see this quite clearly, is to transfer the enthusiasm and the excitement and also the passion from the 911, no matter which engine is inside, into also the other cars. And I would say that's why I said no matter which engine. If the 911 would be electric already, it would still be the 911, and I am 100% sure that we would find things that would, of course, inspire us, and we would be as enthusiastic about it as today. And then we would ask ourselves, how can we transfer this to the Macan, Cayenne, and Panamera, and Taycan? And that's actually what we think of right now as well. Having the 911, it is not the only reason that it has a combustion engine that people are more looking into individualization for this car. But it is one part, of course, and for us it's a big challenge to transfer the spirit of this collectible item, the car is more a family member than just a car, onto the other cars. And we see we are quite capable also with Sonderwunsch to individualize the Taycan. Are the customers excited about it? Yes. Do they also order exclusive Manufaktur options for the electric Taycan? Yes, and above our plannings. But do they invest in Sonderwunsch with the Taycan? Not yet. Because most of them, and we have really lovely concepts based on the Taycan, They say, I like the design, I like the concept, but for what I see in that, for me, it's still the 911. I like the Taycan, I drive it every day, and I spec it up to my desire, but this going further into really making it bespoke with every leather stitching and whatsoever, I do it with a 911. And that's the big challenge that we have to work on. Same for high-end bespoke vehicles, single vehicles for single customers, but also for limited series. So talking about the electric Macan, but especially also the Boxster, I'm very excited how we will manage to bring the same amount of excitement into these cars as we have put it into the 911 Dakar or Sport Classic. But I'm quite confident we find a way.
I totally agree, and I think the company obviously is smart enough to look into the future and what's going to set the stage for years to come with electrification. But what other car company out there is still so committed to the cars from the past, such as Porsche? And we're sitting in the building that is the commitment. So let me. Oh man. So Manny, Damon, I know you had plans to talk about my trip and news. I would say let's save it for next week if you guys are okay with that. And there's a couple more questions that we can get out of Boris we should take advantage of.
From my perspective, this is one of the best episodes we've recorded in a little while. Okay. So I'm cool with that.
So allow me to ask, 2023 is a year of celebration for Porsche with 75 years. Us in the States, we are looking forward to Rennsport. And if history plays again, typically you're involved with something with these celebrations.
Blink once if it's a supercar. Blink twice if it's the ST.
He's not going to blink for the rest of the episode.
No, notice I saved this for the end of the call.
No, I said, of course, we are family, but family also means you are happy if I would join you the next time again, and it's not another Boris because I had to give my factory ID back.
Yes,
and,
we don't want to lose our connection.
So what I can tell you, of course, the 75 years of Porsche are extremely important for the company, especially with what you are talking about now. Talking about what we use as a motto, the dreamers, and then really developing the brand further. This is so important. And 75 years has a lot of heritage, but also says a lot about the potential for the future. Yeah. So, and also it is combined with 60 years of the 911.
Exactly.
So anyhow and any matter how the car might be called, that probably you can expect a 60th anniversary celebration car in any matter for celebrating this. But it's too early to talk about what it will be. But if there would be one, it must not come out of our garage. There are several other garages at Porsche who do most exciting cars.
There you go.
But let's say we were involved, and there's something that we were allowed to add on to the concept, and we are very proud of this. And I'm absolutely sure and convinced that you will like it. And maybe we can talk about this next time. And the second question that you asked was, I think you mentioned it to be a supercar. That I would be, as I was talking before, seeing those Carrera GTs down here. And I can also tell you next to the 4 Carrera GTs are 2 959s. So 2 out of the 3 supercars we ever did, we have on the lifter here. We could leave them here and go down there and talk further there without the microphone.
Exactly.
If there might be...
Sorry, guys. Oh, the connection. We're losing the connection.
If there might be a 4th one after the 918 Spider. Who knows?
Who knows?
Well, I know you're coming to Rennsport, and you're actually going to be in our neighborhood because isn't Porsche Exclusive and Porsche Classic right on top of each other inside of Turn 3, I believe. So we're only going to be about 1 minute walk from each other.
Will we also see you in June at the auction for
Unfortunately, not. As I mentioned, that I will be becoming a father this year. This will happen in June, and I think that's the most important reason to say this will be a time without Porsche.
Yes.
So unfortunately, I cannot come to the auction, but I will, of course, listen.
You'll be
to
cheering.
It and see
You'll be cheering from the operating room.
Of course. I mean, the last, and this is what you have to realize. The last auction I attended was Sally Special, and you know the result.
Absolutely.
So this is this is...
It's a high bar. It's a very high bar. And this car is, to me, and I've said this before on the podcast, and anybody that asks me, Sally Carrera is special, but the Classic Club Coupe is by far
Absolutely.
a much higher bar of
Absolutely.
a build.
Absolutely. I mean, talking about this openly, I mean, Sally Special was thrilling, really, and I was there with inside the auction hall, and still I remember that I really started crying when the final hammer went down, because I couldn't believe it. But and there was, I mean, special about this car is, and nobody can describe it, it is driven by Sally Carrera, because everybody who approached this car started to smile immediately. This car
contains so much emotion,
positive
emotion,
unbelievable.
Absolutely.
And the lucky owner who owns it, and we are so proud of it. He is a Porsche really enthusiast, and he created his own Instagram account and is touring the US and showing the car to kids, and this is all such a nice story. And so also the charity aspect of it was very important. So I understand the price that the car reached at the end, but from a technical standpoint, of course, the Classic Club Coupe brings in much more deviation to the standard car where it's based on, and much more work also that has been put into it. It was years to develop the Classic Club Coupe, and it is really, as we said, a one-off its kind, and has so many technical components. So I'm really excited about it. What is your guess? Where will it end up?
Well, remember, we were really wildly off for Sally Carrera, and I think we were really off for Project Gold also back when that was auctioned off. So I don't know where the best barometers for. I like to see 2 million. That's what I think, because like Vu said, it's a very unique car. It has gotten a lot of exposure, and to me, it's the prequel car to the to the original Sport Classic, and now the new one. So if you own both those cars, you have to own this car, or at least one person has to own the whole trilogy.
Yeah, I was going to say something like 2 million as well, but if it went for more than Sally Carrera did, I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
let's say if it goes for more than what Sally Damon will shave.
Actually, my stubbles.
Really? I was going to say shave his head, but I didn't want to commit him to that.
Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. If the Classic Club Coupe goes over the price of Sally Carrera, and this doesn't affect Manny very much, but the three of us will shave our heads.
I'd do that, and you'll get to see the ugly. My
I've
head's
got
ugly.
the least to lose here, so sure.
I'd be down. Why not? Over 3.5 million, right?
So with that, I want to again thank Boris not only for joining us today on the podcast, but everything that you've done for PCA and its members, all of our projects for the past decade, your friendship, your dedication to everything. Thank you so much. This has been probably one of the most special podcasts for PCA. And for those of you that are listening, thank you so much. We deviated from our normal podcast. I hope you appreciate it, and I'm going to let Manny close it out.
Well, thanks for listening. Let me get I thought you were going to close it out. I do want to mention before we close out and congratulate Porsche and Porsche Motorsports for getting the first win for the 963 at the Long Beach Grand Prix. It was a special part of history, and boy, we can only wait for Le Mans to see what they can do at Le Mans.
So thanks for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and you own a Porsche, what are you waiting for? Be sure to have your VIN handy and head to PCA.org and we'll take care of you. If you don't have a Porsche yet, join our test drive program again at PCA.org. Remember to follow our podcast Instagram page to see behind the scenes photos and videos Porsche Club Insider, all one word. You can always send us a message at podcast@pca.org or simply comment on YouTube. We love seeing the comments. Each and every one of us reads it, and we look forward to replying and maybe even talking about your comments. So with that, until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.